Number two, teach me something new. Or another way to put this is finding ways to express ideas in new ways. Contrary to what students might say, learning can be very addicting. In fact, there's a lot of evidence to show that when you learn something new, it activates the same parts of the brain as does drugs and gambling. So when we have the pleasure of learning something new, it activates a neurotransmitter called dopamine. And as one researcher once put it, dopamine is like the save button of the brain. So when we have that joy of learning something in a new or unique way, it can really help us remember and let that information stick in our minds. Only through seeing your own world through a fresh lens and a fresh perspective will you be able to give your audience a new and fresh idea to look upon. I want to show you an example from a statistician, a man who does statistics named Hans Rosling. Hans Rosling shows a really intuitive graph that compares two variables of countries. On the y-axis, you have the child mortality, the percentage of children who survive into adulthood. And on the x-axis here, you have GDP per capita, in which means if you take all of a country's money and you divide it among its citizens equally, how much money does that come to? Check out his very interesting way of showing different data trends around the world.
But I would like to bring you back to about here at 1960, and I would like to compare South Korea, which is this one, with Brazil, which is this one. The label went away for me here. And I would like to compare Uganda, which is there. And I can run it forward like this. And you can see how South Korea is making a very, very fast advancement, whereas Brazil is much slower. And if we move back again here, and we put on trails on them like this, you can see again that the speed of development is very, very different. And the countries are moving more or less in the same rate as money and health. But it seems you can move much faster if you are healthy first than if you are wealthy first.
The next TED tip that I wanted to share is lighten up, use some humor. Human beings have a really wonderful way of connecting to each other when you can speak truth to power and when you can make unpleasant topics a little bit more palatable by sharing it in a way that helps people to laugh. When we laugh, we can connect with others. Laughing is a great way that human beings bond with each other. As Gallo writes, when you can combine humor and novelty, you have presentation gold. And humor really helps lower your audience's defenses. When I'm giving a presentation and when the audience is listening to a presentation, it's easy to get nervous and tense. Humor is a great way to break that tension and to allow everybody to relax. And when they're relaxed, they're more receptive to the information and to the message. Again, we will revisit Sir Ken Robinson because I thought his TED Talk was in fact quite funny, as evidenced by this example.
I had a great story recently, I love telling it, of a little girl who was in a drawing lesson. She was 6 and she was at the back drawing, and the teacher said this little girl hardly ever paid attention. And in this drawing lesson she did. And the teacher was fascinated. She went over to her and she said, "What are you drawing?" And the girl said, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher said, "But nobody knows what God looks like." And the girl said, "They will in a minute."